Hello, hello. For the first time in a long time, I'm doing a knife slash multi-tool video. So 2025 has been really, really good to me. I got married this year and I had a lot of music stuff going on this year. So I really haven't had a whole lot of time for anything else with those two things happening this year. So my Stephen King reading kind of got put on hold a little bit the last few months. And then also I haven't really talked about like knives and stuff because normally I do a little bit of all of that. So, but I was able to get something recently that really got me excited with knives and multi-tools again. So yeah, figured I would just come on and do one of these for the first time in a long time. So I am a huge fan of the plier-based multi-tool Leatherman. Tim Leatherman's actually the guy who created the plier-based multi-tool. In the 70s, when he got married to his wife, they were vacationing in Europe, and they bought this little tiny car, I believe it was a Fiat, to drive around the country and the continent and like throughout the countries. And he had some tools with him, and in those tools he had a Swiss Army knife, and the car was breaking down all the time, so he was constantly having to do roadside repairs, and he found himself needing a pair of pliers a lot of the time. So he called this trip the what are we going to do for the rest of our lives trip, because it was right after they got married and they were trying to figure out what they were going to do. So he had this notebook of ideas, and he jotted down this idea for a plier-based like Swiss Army knife, like a Swiss Army knife, but the middle is like pliers. So after they get back to the States, he ends up going into like his brother-in-law's shop and spending the next few years while his wife is at work. Like his wife is out working, supporting the family. He is working on the tool, and he comes up with a rendition of a multi-tool that ended up not being super popular, but he meets up with an old friend from college and they get some like refinement stuff done, and they eventually come up with something called the Leatherman Pocket Survival Tool. This is a tool that I found a little over a year ago in Union, Oregon. This is not an original Leatherman Pocket Survival Tool, or PST. This is actually a Japanese-made Leatherman PST. The PST came out in the early 80s. This is a 1988 to 89, and there were a couple of years, about a year and a half, where Leatherman had to outsource the making of their tools to Japan because the demand had gotten so high that they had to essentially build a whole new facility in Portland, Oregon, where they make all their tools. So for 2 short years in 1988 and 1989, you could get a Leatherman that was Japanese made. And that's exactly what this is. And the original tool had this blade right here, this awl right here, and then there's a couple of flathead screwdrivers, 2 of which of different sizes to be exact. And then you have a can opener right over on this side, and a 3-dimensional Phillips head, which I greatly appreciate if you spend a lot of time screwing things. And then this tiny micro driver right here. And then also on this side you have this very big double-sided file with a crisscross pattern on one side and a little bit more of a finer edge on the other. So really nice multi-tool, strong plier head with wire cutters down here, and then there's also a wire crimper on the bottom, and then you've got a couple of measurements on the outside of the tool just showing like inches and such. So that's the basis of the Leatherman multi-tool. This is the first of its kind. This was the original design that Tim Leatherman created after refining it for a few years in his brother-in-law's garage. So there's this tool, and then eventually he came out with a tool in the 90s that would re-revolutionize the industry, and I was actually able to pick up a modern rendition of that multi-tool recently, and that is the Leatherman Super Tool. This specifically is the Super Tool 300. It's the 3rd generation in the tool series, and the size difference between these two is absolutely hilarious. So this is just like a pocket survival tool for just people on the go. This right here was built to absolutely just be beaten to death and have fun doing it. So this was the first tool to introduce locking tools into a plier-based multi-tool. It was the first multi-tool to ever have locking tools. So you got a 3-inch blade right here, and then you've got even more drivers. You've got a serrated blade on top of a regular plain blade. This is the serrated blade, more of a safety blade with this modified sheep's foot here, so that way if you have to get into like somebody and like cut their seatbelt or something, you're not like injuring somebody in the process. This one also has a 3-dimensional driver with a couple extra drivers and a can opener. Also has a saw, unlike the original Leatherman tool, has a very decently sized saw for like just starting small fires or like getting fires going. And then this also comes with a fairly large double-sided file and a couple extra drivers that I was talking about earlier, and then an oversized awl. So the original tool had an awl, but it was more of just like a short skinny blade. This is also a short skinny blade, but slightly different shape, and you've got a needle eye here, so that way you can like work on leather or make stitches, stuff like that. Largest plier head on any Leatherman multi-tool, this guy, and then another large tool called the Leatherman Surge. They have the exact same plier head. Replaceable wire cutters on this guy, and this tool is 420 HC. The entire tool is minus the wire cutters. The wire cutters are going to be a little bit more premium at 154 cm because they are built for cutting things like barbed wire and just thicker diameter pieces of metal like that. So the first thing that you really see or like feel when you get this tool in your hand compared to the original is the weight of it is just, it's probably at least or over double the weight of the original tool. But you can tell that this is definitely a step more in the direction of something that wanted to do the work of a designated tool just as well in the size range of those tools, and not just get you by kind of like this, which that tool did just fine. That's why they're still around to this day. They're now called the Leatherman Bond. They reissued it and gave it a new name. But it was strong. They just wanted like heavy duty on top of strong, and that's where this came from. And I've been EDCing it a little bit. Because I'm a bigger dude, it actually fits in the 5th pocket of my jeans pretty well. So I've been EDCing it pretty regularly, and I'm enjoying it. It's pretty nice. This blade came razor sharp, this plain edge one right here, which... Okay, so this older Leatherman that I showed you, I don't really carry that one like a ton. I was just at a like local shop and I like found it next to a register for dirt cheap, and I just keep it as like a novelty. I very rarely carry it. But the one that I do carry is a different model called the Leatherman Wave. I'll get more into like what this tool is later and what makes this tool so special, but this tool also has a plain edge blade. But why is it that this tool, which this tool is a couple years older, but this tool was more expensive than what this one is? Why is it that this tool has a significantly better grind on the knife? Like the grind on both sides of this knife is flawless, and they're both the same size on like both sides. So it's just great. On my Wave, my black one over there, the grinds are extremely uneven and one side is way fatter than the other. So I thought that the attention to detail on this was interesting. And I found that with a lot of Leatherman tools. Like a lot of their like workhorse models and a lot of their just like bread and butter, like original heritage series tools, the fit and finish on them is just extremely like, it's almost like the quality control is higher, which, I mean, fair, like, because people that are buying tools like this are using them and are beating the crap out of them, so you have to be pretty straightforward with stuff like that. But it's interesting. I've noticed that with, like, I'm a huge buck knife guy too, and I've noticed that with buck knives too. Like, the more base model and the more heritage the knife, the better the quality. And, like, maybe that's a bias that I have, I don't know, but yeah, I'm excited to keep carrying this. I also didn't mention, this also has markings for measurements on both sides. This side being inches and the other side being centimeters, so a little bit more convenience there. And you can just tell when you're like moving this thing back and forth that it's just a tank. So can't wait to put it through the ringer pretty good. Definitely going to be wearing it more to try and break it in because it's pretty stiff. Also, when I got it, I was able to get new old stock. And what I mean by that is Leatherman has now made it to where you have to buy the sheaths separately because tariffs have made like making them too or importing them too expensive. So instead of increasing the price of the tool, they just now make it to where you have to buy the sheaths separately. However, I was able to find new old stock, and I was able to get a large belt sheath for this super tool. And when I saw it, I thought it was way too small for the tool. But then once I got it in there and it actually formed to it a little bit, fits in there pretty nicely. I will never wear this because I don't wear like multi-tools on my belt, but yeah, pretty nice sheath. I prefer the original heritage sheaths, the one with like the Leatherman and gold lettering and like the actual leather case, because I feel like the leather lasts a lot longer and patina's a lot nicer. So I'll probably end up getting a large leather one if I ever do want to carry it on my belt. But I would take this sheath or the leather sheath over one of these, which is what my Wave came with, which is Velcro instead of a button, which is absurd. Like, not absurd, but I just don't like it. I don't like Velcro. So I don't carry it in a sheath anyway, but you know, so. But yeah, just wanted to show you some stuff I was pretty excited about. So yeah, can't wait to keep carrying this, and I'll talk more about this one in another video. But yeah, expect more knife content, I guess, because I do a lot of music content, obviously, but like I used to do a lot of knife stuff, and then I just got so busy this year that it kind of slowed down. So you're going to see more knife stuff. You're going to see more Stephen King stuff, more music stuff too, obviously. That's never slowing down. So yeah, it's been a good year, and I can't wait to see what the future holds. And hopefully I'll be nice and prepared when it happens with this and whatever else. So have a good day.